After the age of 50, you can lose muscle you spent your whole life building, and most people over 60 are losing it right now without a single warning sign. Not overnight. Quietly. About 1% of your muscle mass every year after your 50s, and the strength inside that muscle disappears even faster. Consider this. Research suggests roughly 1 in 3 adults over 60 has measurable sarcopenia. Millions of people, and most of them have no idea. You wake up one morning, you struggle to open a jar. You grab the stair rail without thinking, and you tell yourself, that's just getting older. I'm Dr. Vitalis, and I'm going to tell you the thing your doctor almost never says at your annual visit. It isn't just getting older. It's a specific, measurable condition. It has a name, and for many people, it is partly reversible. Even at 70. Even at 80. Here's the part they skip. You've been told the answer is eggs. Eggs, eggs, eggs. The perfect protein. And eggs are fine. I have nothing against eggs. But if you are trying to rebuild aging muscle, the egg is not the food that does the heavy lifting, and it is not the cheapest, and it is not the fastest. There is a food that costs roughly 60 cents a serving that sits in almost every grocery store in America that delivers the one specific amino acid your aging muscle is starving for, and almost nobody over 60 is using it on purpose. Most people are treating the wrong problem entirely. They think the problem is not eating enough protein. For many older adults, the real problem is that the muscle has stopped listening to the protein you already eat. That's a different problem, and it needs a different fix. Stay with me, because here is exactly what I'm going to walk you through in the next 20 minutes. The first thing is the name of the condition that steals your muscle after 50, the one your chart may never mention, and the 2-word phrase you should say out loud at your next appointment to get it taken seriously. The second thing is the reason a plate of protein does less for your muscles at 70 than it did at 40, a real, measurable change in your body called anabolic resistance. And why eating more of the wrong protein doesn't fix it. The third thing is the 60-cent food itself, the specific amino acid inside it that acts as the strongest trigger for muscle building. And why one particular type of protein carries far more of that amino acid than the egg you were told to trust. The fourth thing is the one movement you absolutely cannot skip. Because I'll be honest with you, no food on earth rebuilds muscle by itself. And the food only works when it's paired with a specific type of exercise that most people over 60 are told to avoid. And the fifth thing is the mistake I see people make with the timing and the amount. They eat the right food at the wrong time, in the wrong quantity, and they get almost none of the benefit. I'll give you the exact number to aim for. Before I go further, if a video like this, plain language, specific numbers, no hype, is the kind of thing you want more of, tap the like button and subscribe. It genuinely helps this reach another person over 60 who's been told their weakness is just their age. That's the whole ask. Now let's get into it. Let me tell you who I am, briefly, because you should know why I'm the one saying this. I'm Dr. Vitalis. My work is focused entirely on the health of adults over 50, how the body ages, where it loses ground first, and what actually holds up under scrutiny versus what just sounds good on a supplement label. I spend my time reading the research that never makes it into a 7-minute appointment. I don't have a supplement to sell you, and I don't have a magic pill. What I have is the same evidence your doctor could read if they had the time, translated into language you can act on this week. And the condition we're talking about today is one of the most under-discussed, under-diagnosed, and under-treated problems in all of senior health. Let me put a face on this. because a statistic doesn't move anybody until it looks like someone they know. Think of a woman named Carol. Carol is 68. She lives in a 2-story house in Ohio, the same house where she raised her kids. For most of her life, Carol was strong. She carried groceries, she gardened, she chased grandchildren. Carol ate what she'd call a healthy diet. Toast in the morning, a little yogurt, a sandwich at lunch, a normal dinner. She wasn't overweight. Her doctor told her year after year that her blood work looked fine for her age. Then, somewhere around 65, small things started to change. Carol noticed she was using her arms to push herself up out of a chair. She noticed she was pausing on the landing halfway up her own stairs. One afternoon, she was carrying a laundry basket. Her knee wobbled, and she caught herself on the wall. She didn't fall. But it scared her, and it scared her because some part of her knew this was new. Carol did what most people do. She told herself to be more careful. She started avoiding the stairs when she could. She stopped carrying the heavy basket and made 2 trips instead. She sat in the chair with the higher seat. Every one of those choices was reasonable. And every one of those choices made the problem worse. Because the less she loaded her muscles, the faster her muscles shrank. She was quietly negotiating a smaller and smaller life. One careful decision at a time. Here's what nobody told Carol. What she was experiencing has a name. It's called sarcopenia, the age-related loss of muscle mass and muscle strength. And it is not a vague inevitability. The European Working Group on Sarcopenia defines it as a real, measurable decline in the size and the strength of your skeletal muscle as you age, and researchers separate the two, the loss of muscle size and the separate loss of muscle strength that can run ahead of it. That second one has its own name too, dynapenia, which means you can be losing your strength faster than you're losing your bulk. You can look basically the same in the mirror and be measurably weaker than you were 2 years ago. That's why the scale and the mirror both lie to you here. Carol looked fine. Carol was not fine. And here is the part that should make you sit up. This isn't a one-way street for everyone. Longitudinal studies following older adults over years have shown that people transition between sarcopenia states in both directions, meaning some people who meet the definition move back out of it. It is not simply a trap door you fall through and never climb back up. For many people, with the right inputs, the body will rebuild. Carol is not a special case. Carol is the ordinary case. And the single most important thing I can tell you today is that the careful, shrinking, protect-yourself response most people have is exactly backwards. So let me explain the mechanism, because once you understand this, you'll never look at your dinner plate the same way. When you were 40, here's what happened when you ate a good serving of protein. The amino acids from that food entered your bloodstream, reached your muscle, and switched on a process called muscle protein synthesis, the building process, where your body takes those amino acids and stitches them into new muscle tissue. At the same time, your body is always running the opposite process, muscle protein breakdown, tearing old tissue down. Muscle is a constant tug-of-war between building and breaking. When you're young and you eat protein, the building side wins the tug-of-war easily. Muscle physiology research describes exactly this, that both exercise and feeding drive protein synthesis up, and the balance tips toward building. Now here's what changes. As you age, that same serving of protein produces a smaller, weaker building response. The signal gets muffled. Researchers have a name for this, and it is the single most important 2-word phrase in this entire video. Anabolic resistance. Anabolic means building. Resistance means your muscle resists the signal to build. Nutrition researchers who've examined this directly, the blunted muscle protein synthesis response to protein and amino acids in older adults, asked the crucial question, is it inevitable or is it preventable? And the answer, encouragingly, is that it is not simply a locked door. It can be pushed back on. Let that land because it reframes everything. The problem for most people over 60 is not only that they eat too little protein. The problem is that the protein they do eat lands softer. You can eat the exact same breakfast Carol ate for 40 years, and at 68 it does less. The muscle isn't as responsive. So the naive solution, just eat more protein, is only half right. If your muscle is hard of hearing, you don't only need to talk more. You need to talk louder. And there's one word it responds to more strongly than any other. Before I name it, here's the punchline you've been waiting for. That 60-cent food is a plain scoop of whey protein. Hold that thought, because to understand why whey beats the egg, you need to understand the one word inside it. That word is leucine. Leucine is an amino acid, one of the building blocks that make up protein. But leucine is not just a brick in the wall. Leucine is the foreman. Leucine is the amino acid that acts as the strongest trigger, the signal that tells your aging muscle, start building now. When your muscle has become anabolically resistant, when the signal is muffled, the way you break through is by delivering a bigger, sharper dose of the trigger the muscle responds to most. And the research on this is where it gets practical. A recent systematic review looked specifically at leucine-enriched whey protein combined with resistance training in people with sarcopenia and found it helped push back against the loss of muscle mass. Not a vague protein is good. A specific tool, leucine-rich protein, paired with the right movement, aimed straight at the resistant muscle. So now the question becomes, where do you get a big, sharp dose of leucine cheaply without a supplement tub? Which brings me back to the egg. And to why I told you to forget the egg, not because it's bad, but because it's been oversold. An egg is a fine food. It has protein, it has the amino acids. But an egg is a relatively small package. Each egg gives you about 6 grams of protein, and only a fraction, well under a gram, is leucine. To hit the leucine dose that actually breaks through anabolic resistance in an older adult, you'd be cracking a lot of eggs. It's not the concentration your resistant muscle needs. Here's why whey wins. Whey, the protein fraction that comes from dairy, is, among common affordable proteins, unusually rich in leucine. That systematic review I mentioned wasn't studying eggs. It was studying leucine-enriched whey, because whey is one of the most leucine-dense proteins available to a regular person. A single serving from a plain container of whey protein, the kind on the shelf of any grocery store, any warehouse club, often runs right around 60 cents when you buy the tub and divide it out. And that one 60-cent serving delivers a leucine dose that would take you several eggs to match. That's the whole point. You're not eating more food. You're delivering a sharper, more concentrated signal to a muscle that has stopped listening to soft signals. Now, I want to be very clear and very honest with you because this is where a lot of health content lies to you. No powder rebuilds muscle by itself. If I told you to drink whey and sit in your chair and wait for your arms to come back, I'd be selling you the same fairy tale the supplement industry sells. Food is only half of the equation. And the other half is the thing most people over 60 have been actively told to avoid. That's my fourth promise, and it's the one I care about most, so let me give it to you straight. The other half is resistance training, strength training. Loading your muscles against resistance, with weight, with bands, with your own body. This is the part where people say to me, Dr. Vitalis, I'm 69. I'm not going to a gym to lift weights. That's for young people. I'll hurt myself. And I understand the fear. But the evidence points the exact opposite direction. Pooled analyses of controlled trials in adults 60 and older who had been diagnosed with sarcopenia looked directly at resistance training and found it improves muscle strength, physical function, and muscle mass in that exact population, the older, already weakened population. Not 25-year-olds, people Carol's age, people your age. And it goes deeper than strength for its own sake. Research on aging, sarcopenia, and falls in older adults living in the community linked that muscle loss directly to fall risk, to disability, and to worse outcomes overall, and named resistance training as a countermeasure. Read that carefully. The weakness isn't just inconvenient. It's the thing underneath the fall, and the fall is the thing underneath the broken hip, and the broken hip is the thing that ends independence for so many people. When you strengthen the muscle, you're not just opening jars, you're protecting the whole cascade. Here's what this looks like in a real life, not a laboratory. National guidance for older adults from the CDC and from the National Institute on Aging both point to strength training, muscle strengthening activity as a core type of exercise for older people, alongside the aerobic activity most people already know about. The National Institute on Aging describes several types of exercise that improve health and physical ability in older adults, and strength work is squarely among them. This is not fringe advice. This is the mainstream recommendation that somehow never makes it into the appointment. So what does the food and the movement look like together, in the order your body actually uses them? When you contract a muscle against resistance, you prime it. You make it hungry to build. You sensitize it to the signal. Then you deliver leucine-rich protein, and the primed, sensitized muscle finally hears the message loud and clear. Muscle physiology research describes this partnership plainly, that both the exercise and the feeding drive the building process, and together they tip the balance toward building. Movement opens the door. Protein walks through it. One without the other leaves most of the benefit on the table. That's why Carol, drinking whey while avoiding her stairs, would have gotten almost nowhere, and why loading her muscles without feeding them the right signal would have gotten her only part way. Now let me widen the picture, because Carol is one story, and I don't want you thinking this only applies to a 68-year-old woman in Ohio. Think of a man named Frank. Frank is 74. He's a big guy, always has been, carries some extra weight around the middle. And here's what makes Frank's case so easy to miss. He doesn't look weak. He looks solid. His doctor has been telling him for years to lose weight, and Frank has tried, cutting back, eating less across the board. And here's the trap almost nobody warns him about. When an older adult with extra weight diets by simply eating less of everything, a big chunk of what they lose can be muscle, not just fat. Endocrine and metabolic guidance makes exactly this point, that older adults with obesity need adequate protein paired with the right exercise to preserve musculoskeletal health while they lose weight. Frank, dieting the ordinary way, could come out the other side lighter on the scale and weaker in the muscle than when he started. Thinner and more fragile. That's the hidden cost of the wrong kind of weight loss after 70, and it's why the 60-cent, high-leucine, low-calorie protein serving matters even more for someone in Frank's position, not less. Then think of a woman named Delia. Delia is 81. Delia is thin. She's always been thin, and her family jokes that she eats like a bird. Delia's problem isn't extra weight. Delia's problem is that she genuinely doesn't eat much, and what she does eat is light on protein. Tea and toast, a little soup, a few crackers. Delia is the person for whom anabolic resistance is most dangerous because she's fighting on two fronts. Her muscle responds weakly to protein, and she's barely giving it any protein to respond to. For Delia, a single glass of an affordable, leucine-rich protein, easy to swallow, gentle on a small appetite, is not a luxury. It may be the difference between staying in her own home and not. National health information from the NIH's Medline Plus service emphasizes protein among the nutrients the body needs across the stages of life. And for someone like Delia, closing that protein gap is job number one. 3 people. A woman avoiding her stairs, a heavy man dieting himself frail, a thin woman eating like a bird. Different bodies, different starting points, one underlying problem. Aging muscle that has stopped listening, being underfed the one signal it responds to most. If you saw yourself in any of them, and I suspect you saw yourself in at least one, then this next part is the part you actually do something with. Here is exactly what to do in order starting this week. Number 1. Say the words out loud at your next doctor's appointment. Tell your doctor, "I'm concerned about sarcopenia, age-related muscle loss, and I want to know where I stand." I gave you that 2-word phrase early, and here's where it pays off. Naming it changes the conversation. Ask whether a simple strength check, like how hard you can grip or how quickly you can rise from a chair 5 times, makes sense for you. You don't need a fancy scan to start paying attention. You need to stop calling it just getting older and start calling it what it is. This is educational, not a diagnosis, so let your physician confirm what fits your situation. Number 2. Add a concentrated dose of leucine-rich protein most days, timed around your movement. This is the 60-cent food in practice. A serving of plain whey protein mixed into water or milk is the simplest, cheapest way for most people to deliver that sharp leucine signal the aging muscle needs. Number 3. Start resistance training, deliberately, safely, and without apology for your age. This is non-negotiable, and it's the half that food can't replace. You do not need a gym. You need to load your muscles against resistance a couple of times a week. Sit to stands from a sturdy chair, pushing against a resistance band, lifting hand weights, or even filled water bottles through a full range of motion. The pooled trial data in older adults with sarcopenia found strength training improved strength, function, and muscle mass in people already diagnosed. Start lighter than you think you need to, focus on doing the movement well, and add a little over time. If you have heart concerns, joint problems, or you've been very inactive, get your physician's clearance before you begin. That's not me hedging. That's me keeping you safe. Number 4. Reverse the shrinking. Remember Carol quietly making her life smaller, 2 trips instead of 1, the higher chair, avoiding the stairs? Every one of those accommodations, left unchallenged, accelerates the loss. So pick one thing you've started avoiding and gently, safely start doing it again. Carry the lighter basket. Take the stairs when someone's home with you. Use your muscles on purpose. Disuse is a signal to your body that the muscle isn't needed. Use is the signal that it is. Number 5. Get the timing and the amount right. And here's the exact number I promised you. Most people either spread their protein too thin across the day in little dribs, or they eat it all at dinner when it's too late to pair with movement. Instead, aim for roughly 25 to 40 grams of protein in a single sitting, a real substantial dose, not a sprinkle, and make sure that dose carries about 2.5 to 3 grams of leucine, which is the threshold the research points to for switching building on in an older, resistant muscle. A single scoop of whey lands you right in that leucine range. Try to have it in the window around your strength work.
If you have kidney disease or any condition that limits your protein, this is exactly the point to talk to your doctor first, because the right number for you may be different. Number 6. If you're losing weight, protect the muscle while you do it. This one is for the Franks. Don't just eat less of everything. Keep your protein up while you cut calories, and keep loading your muscles so that what you lose is fat and not the muscle that keeps you upright. The endocrine and metabolic guidance is clear that older adults need adequate protein and the right exercise to hold on to musculoskeletal health during weight loss. Thinner and frailer is not the goal. Leaner and stronger is. Number 7. Don't wait for a warning sign, because the warning sign is often the first fall. This is the hardest one to accept and the most important. Sarcopenia is quiet. It doesn't hurt. It creeps. By the time it announces itself with a stumble or a wall catch, you've already lost ground. The research linking sarcopenia to falls and disability makes that plain. So the right time to start feeding and loading your muscle is not after something scares you. It's now, while it still feels unnecessary.
The people who do best are the ones who acted before the crisis. Now, let me give you the one advanced move most people, and honestly a lot of professionals, don't fully appreciate, because it changes how much of all this actually works. It's not just how much protein you eat in a day, it's whether any single serving crosses that leucine threshold, roughly 2.5 to 3 grams in one dose, to trigger building in a resistant muscle. Here's why this matters so much for you specifically. A younger person can eat a small amount of protein and still get a decent building response because their muscle is sensitive. But an anabolically resistant older muscle needs a bigger single push to reach the same trigger point. That's the whole logic behind leucine-enriched protein in the sarcopenia research. You're not just adding protein, you're making sure the dose in one sitting is concentrated enough to break through. So the person who nibbles a little protein at every meal may never once in an entire day cross that leucine threshold.
And the person who has one real leucine-rich serving right around their strength work crosses it cleanly.
Same total protein, completely different result. Concentration and timing beat drizzling it across the day. When not to chase this. If you have any kidney condition or protein restriction, this bigger single-dose strategy is exactly what you must clear with your doctor first. For you, more is not automatically better, and the right plan is an individual one. Let me pull this all the way back to where we started because I want you to leave with the one thing that matters. The weakness you may have blamed on your age has a name: sarcopenia. And for many people, it is not a one-way road. Your aging muscle hasn't quit on you. It's gone a little hard of hearing. It's anabolically resistant, so the ordinary protein you eat lands softer than it used to. The fix is not the egg you were told to trust. It's a sharper signal, a concentrated, leucine-rich, roughly 60-cent serving of whey protein, 25 to 40 grams, carrying 2.5 to 3 grams of leucine, delivered around the resistance training that primes your muscle to listen.
Food opens the door only when movement has already turned the handle. Do both, most weeks, starting now, and you give your body the exact inputs the research says it responds to, even at 70, even at 80. This is educational, not a prescription, and your own doctor should tailor it to you, but you are far more able to rebuild than anyone has told you. If this helped you understand something your last appointment didn't, do 2 quick things. Hit like so this reaches another person who's been quietly making their life smaller, and subscribe because next time I'm breaking down the exact strength moves you can do from a single sturdy chair. No gym, no equipment, at any age. I'm Dr. Vitalis. Take care of the muscle, and it will take care